Good evening, everyone. This is your friend from that one time. Today I'll be talking about lab wheels and the potential theft of intellectual property. Now, I want to preface this video by stating one, I am not a lawyer, so I don't actually know too much about intellectual property rights. Two, I also am not going to be commenting too much about the products today. I've heard that Lab Wheels makes an excellent product. I've heard that their wheels are quite nice. However, I'll be talking mostly about their business tactics. I may mention a little bit about the products, but nothing in regards to the quality. As far as I know, their products are good. This is going to be more about their business as a whole in regards to potential loss or theft of intellectual property. So let's get right into it. Lab Wheels is a company that started sometime early this year, or maybe a little earlier than that, maybe sometime late last year. They are a company that makes urethane wheels. I believe they are a subsidiary of another company called Acid Tuning, which was started sometime mid last year to early last year. When I first came across this company, Lab Wheels, there was something interesting about them that stuck out to me. I think where that stems from was originally the name, because I knew I had heard that name before, but this was clearly a new company. This clearly wasn't anything I had seen before. After I did a little bit of digging, I figured out where I'd heard the name before, and it was from a company called No Comply. Their Instagram name is The Real No Comply. And what I learned about this company was that they had been making a product called Lab Wheels since early 2000s, maybe even earlier. This stood out to me because I had never seen this happen in the fingerboard community before, where somebody had deliberately taken a name that had been used by another company. So I contacted The Real No Comply to ask them if this was the same company and what was going on. The Real No Comply responded very kindly, and they let me know that this was a different company and that they had been contacted about this previously, to which the new company Lab Wheels had replied something along the lines of, "I don't give a shit." I was planning on doing a video at that point. However, I hadn't really dug up enough stuff. No Comply hadn't gotten back to me with screenshots, so I was just kind of, floating. However, I did at that time look a bit into Lab Wheels' website and their products, and I noticed something else familiar. There was some images on their page and on their website that looked strikingly similar to some pictures posted by another company that you may or may not have heard of. They're pretty big. You probably heard of them once or twice. They're called Joycult. Now, Joycult has been in the scene for a lot longer than I have. Let's just put it that way. And they're potentially the most popular or biggest fingerboard wheel distributor in the world. I mean, at least the most well-known. Now, the weird thing here is that they didn't directly steal any of Joycult's images. They didn't directly steal Joycult's name like they did with Lab Wheels, but they essentially posted their own versions of the exact same images. After looking over all of it, I did also find that Lab Wheels products are designed very similarly to some older Joycult products, the OG wheels, to be specific. So similar, in fact, that if I were to remove the logos, you almost can't tell the difference. In fact, you really can't tell the difference. And this was striking to me. This was very odd, and this was part of the reason I started talking about making a video in the first place. After talking to some of my friends and just kind of getting a feel for what people thought about the situation, I decided to hold off on making a video to see what happens, because I thought maybe No Comply would get it settled with them, maybe Joycult would step in and have them stop leeching their marketing, but nothing ever really came of it. Flash forward to about 2 days ago. We're in December now. That was back in May. Lab Wheels posted something up. It came across my feed. I read the post. It looks like they're going to be doing a collaboration with Acid Tuning, which is interesting since Acid Tuning is Lab Wheels, so it's kind of deceptive, a little bit fishy. But in the text, they were talking about calling the stock drop an acid drop. The thing is, acid drops are another wheel company. They're made by a company called Laughing Skull Dimensions. They make wheels called acid drops, and they've been doing it for almost as long as I've been in fingerboarding. So this really stood out to me too, and this was kind of like a last straw moment for me. This is when I decided I had to make the video, because this is a third company that they're going to be ripping off now. So rather than jumping the gun, I made a comment on their post. It reads, "First you use Lab Wheels, which was already being used by The Real No Comply, and then you use Acid Drop, which is already being used by Laughing Skull Dimensions. What's next? Going to call your wheels Flatface or Joycult or maybe Oak?" Lab Wheels responded by saying, "You're next." This really got on my nerves, because not only are they acknowledging that they're doing this, because they know they're doing something wrong, but now they're lodging a threat, regardless of whether or not it was a joke. They didn't make that very clear, and they've basically admitted guilt at this point, so obviously they know what's going on. So I contacted Laughing Skull Dimensions about this and started talking with him. Him and I are acquaintances, we've spoken before. And he seemed a little bit off-put by it, but he didn't seem like he was going to take any sort of action. So I had posted a picture up of Joycult's wheels and a picture of Lab Wheels as a side-by-side, so you can kind of see the comparison of the marketing, the comparison of the shape of the wheels. Well, the comments on that post blew up. You know, people arguing from one side or the other side. The majority of the people backing up Lab Wheels were talking about the quality of the products rather than the actual intellectual property theft that I'm referring to. And in the comments, Joycult popped up. They had made a comment basically confirming that they had no part in selling their design to Lab Wheels. So I had mentioned to Joycult, if you don't want to talk about it here, DM me, I'd like to get more information from you. Well, Joycult did DM me. He sent me a list of side-by-side screenshots of his marketing versus their marketing, and where they had literally copied their images, not literally as in taken their images and posted on their page, but actually taken their ideas for their images and recreated them with their own product. If this isn't intellectual property theft, I honestly don't know what is. This is as close as it gets without actually stealing the images. The other thing that I received from Joycult was a story, and the story detailed how the creator of Lab Wheels had contacted him early on and essentially complained about some sort of email issue or some sort of product shipping issue, whatever it was. He managed to convince Joycult to send him a screenshot of Joycult's email inbox. And in that inbox was a tab which was specifically for Joycult's urethane supplier. Lab Wheels then, behind Joycult's back, took the name of that supplier, found contact info for them, and attempted to contact them to buy urethane from them. The supplier then contacted Joycult to let them know what was going on, and no deal was ever made there. Not only is that an extremely deceptive and shady tactic, but it's very clear that the intent was to steal Joycult's business. Now, like I said, I'm no lawyer, so I don't actually know if this counts as intellectual property theft. However, like I said, this is about as close as I think you can get without actually just taking their images and posting them up on your page. They've done everything they can to basically try to be Joycult, name themselves after another company, and then name a stock drop after a third company. Now, this wouldn't be such a big deal to me if they somehow gave credit to these companies or, paid them for this usage of their name, but they don't even reference these companies. They have absolutely no relation to them. It's essentially like stealing from somebody else. And I wouldn't really care so much if these were like big corporations with, a bunch of money to spare, or lawyers so that they can take care of it that way. But these aren't big companies. Even Joycult is just a dude making wheels in his house. And he's one of the biggest fingerboard companies there are. Now, even if they're not breaking any laws, I don't see how this can be considered okay morally by any standard, because like I said, these are people making a product out of their house. They're just trying to get by. Even if they do have any legal ground to stand on, affording something like that is going to be way out of their budget. All three of these companies have all just given up. They've all just decided it's not worth the fight. We'll let them run their course. But it seems like Lab Wheels is just getting bigger and bigger by the day. And at this point, I don't see how The Real No Comply can re-release their product under the same name without having a bundle of returns on their product, because people are confused and thinking they're buying someone else's product. It's a bad tactic. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. I know I'm not the only one who has this opinion of this company. And it wouldn't even be that big of a deal if they would at least make some sort of reference or apology or change something. But at this point, they've already made it clear that they don't care to do any of that. So this isn't a call for action or anything like that. What it is just trying to expose the truth of the situation, because I want people to understand what kind of a company they're supporting. Regardless of the quality of the product, regardless of anything Joycult or LSD or any of those companies have done, I want people to understand that when they buy Lab Wheels products, they're supporting the theft of intellectual property from people who are just trying to make a living building products by hand out of their own house. It's a very poor business tactic, and it's highly inconsiderate.